Welcome to the Dean Bleckman Show, live from Long Island. Free-flowing talk with a charismatic, down-to-earth host. Join Dean as he interviews and chats freely with his guests, ranging from superstar athletes to politicians, industry titans, and everyday folk with fascinating life stories. Dean educates, entertains, and most of all, touches people's lives. You're listening to the Dean Bleckman Show, live from Long Island.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dean Bleckman Show. It's a cold, a little bit warmer. It's the 10th of January,
yes.
And we're pretty much on time, 10 a.m. But I'm here with my wonderful guest that drove in from New Jersey, Dr. Faith Brown.
Hello, Dean.
Hello, Faith.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.
I know a couple of times on vacation in St. Martin last week, we did a lot of communication and prep for you to come out here.
Yes.
At originally you were going to do the show by way of Skype audio.
Right.
So I'm really happy to have you here in the studio and experience it with me firsthand with
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. You know, it's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure, and I'm so humbled that you even invited me out. So thank you very much. And so in as much as we could move mountains to be here with you, that's what we were going to do. So thank you so much.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. At 5 in the morning, you made that drive out. And let me tell you something. I've had a few guests that have really changed my life. And in the short time so far, man, you are a young lady with unbelievable high energy.
Thank you.
And you really got me going today. You got me really pumped up. So
well, we're going to do some special things
Let me say once again for people who don't know who you are.
Fantastic.
But, and if I miss anything, please correct me. But Dr. Faith Brown is a clinical counseling psychologist. She's a business mentor, an author, a speaker, an expert panelist. She coaches individuals, all the elite people throughout New York City, whether it be doctors, actors, lawyers, bankers, all people of all walks of life, all the elite people, famous people. She has quite a client base.
Thank you.
And obviously she tries to add value to people's lives and make a difference in their lives every day. Every day. So I want to thank you very much. It wasn't easy to travel out here to Setauket. I got to ask you what that experience was. I've had a few people that have made the trip, didn't realize it was that far.
Yeah. But you know what? I made it a point because I really wanted to get here and I wanted to get here on time. So I made it a point to leave on time. And that's part of the key. You know, when you're driving through New York City, you know, to get to wherever, you just have to make sure that you leave on time. And so, you know what? It ended up being quite uneventful. And I'm very happy about that. The drive was easy for me as well as beautiful. It was a beautiful drive. So thank you. I'm glad we were able to do this in person as opposed to remotely.
And like I always do with all my guests that come in studio, you had texted me before you were, about a half a mile away, yes. And you tell me, Dean, you know, I'm pulling up to a Dunkin' Donuts down the road in Stony Brook. And you said, is there anything that I could get you? I immediately text you back and I said, stop.
Right.
Don't.
He sure did.
I said, Sharon brings these world-class muffins and pastry that throughout my shows are well known that everybody knows about.
Right.
And
very hospitable host. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So it's let's get right into you know, I've got it for my audience especially, and I'd like to hear it again.
Of course.
You and I, what's also very special about our friendship and our relationship is career-wise.
Yes.
We have kind of crossed kind of parallel paths.
Right.
You and I. I mean, you were in business.
I was.
I think you were in the pharmaceutical industry.
I was.
You were in sales and you were in marketing.
That's right.
I mean, hot stuff. That's where all this young generation, when they're about to get out of school, I advise this entire young generation, the best advice I give them is everybody, no matter what career path they choose, I think it's great to take a job, to go after a job in sales, no matter what no matter what the product is or what the service is.
Yes.
I think for 1, 2, 3 years,
yes,
I think you get a tremendous learning curve and
yes,
experience
yes,
by taking some form of a job initially in sales and then later pursue your career. So I just wanted to bring it up because obviously at Twin Lab, myself, my 4 brothers, and my mom and dad, you got to listen to my mom's show if you haven't listened to it. Show
I
number
haven't.
1.
I'd love to.
Quite a lady.
Okay, I
and
believe that.
she'd really like you. So maybe one day when we do a show, we'll do a call in with Jean Blackman.
How about that?
Because she'd get a matter of fact, she'd probably want to adopt you as a daughter.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Okay.
That would be awesome.
But why don't we get into there's a couple of things once again your background,
sure,
and I think there's a great story there with what you did in the pharmaceutical industry and sales and marketing, and I think becoming a clinical psychologist and a professional coach. Obviously, at that point in your life, with that type of career,
sure,
you decided to make the change with what you love doing every day. So maybe if you could just share with me and our audience around the world, just a little history on that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You know, it's really an interesting thing, guys. So as you mentioned, yes, I have a former background in sales and marketing, and particularly in the pharmaceutical industry. And I would agree with you that going into sales is character building. If you learn nothing else, you learn how to forge great relationships. You learn how to operate in integrity. You learn how much your word weighs, the gravity of your word in terms of deliverables. You always want to deliver more than you promise, and you want to always be on time for, whatever appointments you may have. So it's a great character building, work ethic builder when you're starting out in your career. So I was in healthcare, sales and marketing for 20 years or so. But all of that, right, is psychology. You cannot have a relationship without psychology. You can't even have a relationship with your banker without exercising a bit of psychology, because it is the study of human behavior, and it's all about how we interact with one another. So I'd say, I'd been walking this path a very long time. I just decided to formalize it. So, after a while, the industry changed, and it was time for me to pivot to get on a more authentic path. And for me, because I'd helped people all along, people just kind of gravitated my way. I knew that this was my lane. It was my lane. So the time came when I decided to pivot. I was going to go back to school. It's never too late. It's never too late to, go after your dream. And my dream was always to earn my doctorate.
Wow.
So, after that career, this is a second career for me. So after that, I decided to go back to school and go after my doctorate, because if I was going to do it, I was going where? To the top, right? I'm going to go straight to the top. And that was, quite rewarding, quite a rewarding process. But I must say this, I worked full time during the entire time that I was earning my advanced degree.
Wow.
So again, the structure, the discipline that it takes to be in sales, in any kind of sales job, of course, kind of prepares you for the discipline that is needed when you pursue anything else in life. So not only was it, not too late, but I had, the underpinnings, a foundation upon which to build to pursue both. Wow. So I did them simultaneously. And thankfully, because of my background in healthcare, I had an audience. It was like the research lab for me, because when I decided to open my practice, actually someone came to me after looking at all of my research, and my research was with physicians, with doctors. I'd been hanging out with them for like 20 years.
Wow.
So studying their behavior from afar in a way, so that was the lab for me. And what was very interesting is that physicians, as well as other professionals that you mentioned, have similar ego structures. So when endeavoring, to help people, I wanted to help heal the healer. Mm-hmm. Help heal the healer, because where does the healer go when the healer needs healing? And of course, physicians are human too. So they needed some place to go. And someone actually approached me and said, listen, we have some people that, we're trying to help. will you hang a shingle? You know, if you hang a shingle, then we will make sure that we get people the help that they need. So it was so humbling. It was such a humbling, time in my life, such a humbling process for me. And so what I don't want the audience to think is that I only see elite professionals. I see a lot of elite professionals, but I see everyday people all the time because we're all the same. Whatever the behavioral profile is of an elite professional is the same for anyone else who's working, a 9 to 5. It's the exact same thing. We may have different lenses in terms of how we look at that, but it's the exact same thing. So
listen, you keep talking about, you keep using this word. Okay. You keep using this word, elite professionals. Yes. I mean, that's a category. How would you describe elite professionals?
Elite professionals, from the way it has come into play in my practice, are those that perhaps have advanced degrees, terminal degrees. So either 3 or 4 year, 6 year degree, or as a physician, an attorney. So having those terminal degrees. But that's not all my practice sees. As you stated, I see entertainers. And some have advanced degrees, some do not. But we have the same problem. So a problem doesn't know a degree. You know what I mean? And I see investment bankers, some have terminal degrees, some do not. But again, problems don't know a degree. So the fact that someone would walk into my office to even think that I could be of help to them, that's quite humbling. Are you kidding? That's very humbling.
Listen, coming into the studio here, a lot of my show is very spontaneous. Yes. And I don't have questions and things. It's done just spontaneously in the conversation. That. So my guests got to be ready for this. Yes. Okay. Yes. But you categorize all these types of elite professionals, and you talk about entertainment industry. Yes. I mean, do you have clients that are in the adult entertainment industry? I mean, do you have clients that are porn stars? I do not, but you know what? It would be interesting to have one or two. Wow. It would be interesting to have one or two. Okay. So, anyone that's in the adult entertainment industry, and anyone that's a porn star that needs help. Need to chat because I look at that as being elite professionals. Once again, Dr. Faith Brown and the Brown Wellness Group in New York City. Yes. She is the founder of the Brown Wellness Group in New York City. And I'll tell you one thing, 5 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I gotta be honest with you and my audience. Have you ever heard of the word schwitz? I have. I have. I'm telling you, I thought we were going, I'm being honest with everybody. I thought when you told me we're going live on Facebook, I thought it was just going to be pre-show like we did before we went live. Surprise. So I'm telling you, my heart, I'm going to be honest with you, no matter what I've done in life and my career. Yes. I'm telling you, I'm still a little nervous. Okay. And that's good. That's good. A little nervousness is always good. It keeps us on our toes, number one, but you never know what you're going to get hanging out with me, Dean. You never know. So listen, let's get into, why don't we get into some things? I think we can't cover everything today. Sure. It's just impossible. Right. And I'm hoping you want to come back many times in the future. If you'll have me, absolutely. Absolutely. But I think there is one main topic that we told the world that we'd be getting into today. That is your relationship with yourself, self-love. Right. So why don't we get into that a little bit? What that exactly means, your relationship with yourself and self-love. Yeah. How do you define that? What exactly does that mean? Because as you said earlier, when I was first decided to launch this show, I said, you might be a close second now. My biggest fan is my mother, Jean Bleckman down in Delray Beach. She's going to be 90 years. So everyone's got some catching up. And so far, more people have listened to her show than any show to date. Wow, that's amazing. But it's interesting what's developing here. So, I think let's get into what that. I want to, if as you said earlier, if every show can make a difference to one person that's listening in my audience. Yes. That is the greatest thing in my life with my show, that if one person is impacted in a positive way here.
Sure.
So there were lots of subjects to focus on, and,
Yes.
and we don't have all day to do that.
Yes.
I know you've got to get back to your practice. I've got some other shows as well that have to be done this afternoon. But why don't you define that? I thought a great topic for us to get into is your relationship with yourself,
Right.
and self-love. What exactly is that?
So let me just kind of put this in context, if you will. So when we start thinking about the self, who I am, who are you, who am I look in the mirror and go, who am I? And I think about what comes to mind for me, it may not for a lot of people, is that I am mind, body, spirit. Mind, body, spirit, I'm an energy source. Okay, I'm an energy source. And once I recognize that I'm an energy source, energy goes anywhere. Energy is everywhere, right? And when you walk into a room, it can be almost palpable, right? So I am mind, body, spirit. I'm energy having a human experience, right? Through mind, body, and spirit. I sense the world through all three, my mind, my body, and my spirit. My mind will strategize and inform me of what I'm looking at. My body will feel and sense whatever that is. And my spirit almost acts as a barometer or as a compass to let me know, is this good or is this bad? How is this feeling to me, right? So when mind, body, and spirit is aligned.
I'm going to write that down.
Think of it as a vertical.
Write that down, everybody.
as a vertical line. So once mind, body, and spirit are aligned, then that relationship, we consider the relationship with the self intact. Once relationship is intact, that vertical relationship is intact, then we have a chance of the horizontal relationship, which is the relationship with our peers, with family members, with partners, with husbands, with wives, that has an opportunity for success. But where the mind, spirit, body, mind, and spirit are misaligned, then you can almost guarantee that those horizontal relationships are going to be misaligned as well.
Wow.
So the relationship with the self is about getting to know who you are so intimately that you can communicate to one what you want, what you don't want, what your needs are, and what you don't need. And oftentimes that is colored by who society has already told you are and who you're supposed to be. It is often colored by a parent's desire for a kid to take on a career choice, a parent living vicariously through a child, or actually a kid kind of acquiescing to what a parent would want him or her to become. So when you have layer upon layer upon, where someone else has told you who you are, sometimes your voice gets lost. Wherever there is silence, whenever one's voice is silenced, there is this cry, there's this discomfort of someone wanting to come out, wanting to be free, wanting to say, hey, I'm in here, let me out. I have clients who've been practicing medicine 25, 30 years, and they're like, I never wanted to do this. And they've been miserable for 25 or 30 years. It doesn't mean they didn't do a great job, because they honed their skills, they adapted to the environment. But there's been something inside that's been aching for 25 to 30 years, because when you feel it, when it comes in, you're going to feel it all over. But if we don't give voice to that and allow that to manifest, then it materializes into something else.
Wow, I felt that.
Sure.
Over the years, I have personally felt that.
Yes. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So it's an intimacy with yourself, getting to know who you are and allowing that voice, that inner voice, to come to the forefront and then to manifest in a way that's true for you.
Wow.
That's loving yourself.
Explosive. Now, when you say loving yourself,
Yes.
I have to ask you, how far loving yourself from where that borderline where you meet people that there's a little bit of narcissism, narcissistic. How do you define that and separate that?
So now we're getting into some of the disorders. And actually, so when I'm talking about loving yourself, I'm talking about a high functioning individual who is interested in, one, reconciliation with self, and reconciling with relationships, or in relationships with partners, with family members, with children. So we're not talking about abnormalities or disorders at this point. So how far do you take it when someone comes in, if someone is dealing with it, if dealing with narcissism. So this is not a type of arrogant self-love. This is aligning your mind, body, and spirit that allows you to give love as well as receive it.
Wow.
For the purposes of reconciliation, to reconcile,
that's powerful.
to align the self, and then to reconcile everything around you.
That's powerful. That's powerful.
Which has absolutely nothing to do with narcissism.
So, are you able to share some tidbits? Well, obviously, you can't share client names, but are there one or two or three examples that are really special case studies of clients that you've people that you've worked with in this area?
Well, in this particular area, yes. As a matter of fact, I had a client to come in. This is a physician client, a female physician client who came in, who had been practicing medicine for about 15 years. And she came in because she was depressed. And that's not unusual, because what we find is oftentimes when you're doing something that you don't want to do, and you can't give voice to, and you think, but I've invested so much energy, time, effort, resources in this one area. Is it really conceivable that I can make a change, that I can change? So this particular woman comes in, if I were to dismiss all of the labels of being a physician, being chief of her, of her specialty, can I get to the person to see who this is? And so what we discovered was that she became a physician because she didn't know what she wanted to do.
Wow.
But parents said, you know what, why don't you go into medicine? Because, of course, we have those lots in life that are considered, at the top of the top of the echelon. So being a doctor, being a lawyer. And in this particular case, they encouraged her to be a doctor. She didn't know what she wanted to do, so why not? So she went into medicine, all to discover that she really didn't like medicine. Actually, what she liked was poetry. She liked writing. So there were times in her life when, she was a bit disenchanted with her profession. She'd find herself writing, but she would never talk about it because that was not a career in the arts, was not considered an honorable profession. So she came into the office depressed. She'd, been depressed for, if I'm recalling correctly, about 7 years. On and off, different medications, just trying to make it work. And so on top of that, we also discovered that she was burnt out. Wow. Because again, she's going against her natural alignment. That was totally outside of her spiritual realm. Her body was going to work every day. Her mind was synthesizing exactly what she needed to do, but her spirit was kicking against it the entire time.
Wow.
We discovered in the process that she was developing some abnormal cells. She ended up, being, she went to the doctor. They thought she may have had breast cancer. But all of this has to do with the stress and toxins that she was carrying in her body for a very long time. She was actually performing in a job that she had disdain for. Honorable profession. She was doing well. And whenever she walked out among her peers, of course, she was honored. This is, the doctor is showing up today, right? As well as being anointed a leader for what she did as a physician. So came into the office, we talked about it, and we decided to talk. What do you really want to do? What is your spirit telling you? When you are alone, what are you doing? What do you find joy? Where is the joy? Where do you find that? And she said to me, I find the greatest joy when I'm writing. And on one of her visits, she actually brought in some of her writings and began to read them aloud. And as she was reading them, the tears began to flow. So it was amazing to just kind of see this person, not the doctor, not the chief of staff, but to see this person, for who she is.
Right,
and she felt seen for the first time. She felt honored for the first time.
Wow.
for just being herself.
Amazing. Amazing. You know, when you share this
Yes.
Story about this particular client or patient, I don't know how you categorize
Client.
it. Immediately what comes to mind is, I'll never forget it. It's difficult when I go back in time to think how far it was, but whether it was 15 or 20 years ago, I remember picking up the New York Times sports section one day. And I'll never forget, there was an unbelievable story about a young man that became the #1 draft choice
Wow.
for the New York Mets as a shortstop.
Okay.
I mean, you have to be the best in the world. And at that position, shortstop, you remember a guy named Jeter.
I remember him.
You got to be, pretty special
Yes,
to
yes.
play that position
Yes.
in the major league shortstop. And I'll
yes.
never forget, going into this story that you're saying and the pressures with whether it be parental pressures to be something that you
Yes.
don't want to be.
Yes.
Or even if you're so gifted with such talent. This story really impacted me. And still, when you tell your story about this
Yes.
patient, this client, I think of this young man. I don't know what he's doing today, but he was the #1 draft choice for the New York Mets to play shortstop. That's off the charts. I mean, best in the world. And he just woke up one day and told his family he doesn't want to play baseball anymore. Just doesn't like it. So I don't know what he's doing today. But, there's lots of people every day that, there's such a drive to drive every day to get up and push and make money.
Sure.
And at the end of the day, whether you're a billionaire or very wealthy, at the end of the day, we all get old. Right?
Yes,
we all get
do.
old.
We do.
That at the end of the day, spiritually, and when you talk about mind, body, and soul.
Yes.
Okay, I would think, listen, I guess I won't feel my age. I'm 59.
Okay.
I'm 59. I know
No
you're
way.
a lot
No
younger
way.
than me. Okay. But at the end of the day,
Yes.
all of us, whether it's you and I or everybody, all our listeners, at the end of the day, we're all going to get old.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, our legacies are everything that means to
Right.
us. Okay. So there's a lot more than it's important to be happy with what you're doing.
Yes.
And obviously there's bills that got to be paid and everything. There's
Sure.
pressures to do that.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, there's got to be great advice from talented people like you.
Listen, yes.
To be able to balance life like that at the end of the day, it's about everybody's legacy.
It really is. And so you're going to pay on the front end or you're going to pay on the back end.
Right.
And what I mean by that is you're going to either decide on the front end of your career or mid-career that, you know what, this really isn't for me, and have the courage. It takes tremendous courage to step up and say, what I have been doing for the last 10 years, 15 years, 20 years is not what I want to do. I'm doing it. I'm good at it. I'm very talented, but it's not what I want to do. And it takes tremendous courage to admit that and then to pivot and decide I'm going to now do something different. Now, what I mean by paying on the back end is if we do not pay attention, if we don't listen, because we're that little thing that we feel in our spirit, that's like a tap on the shoulder. If we're not listening,
you keep touching,
'cause I
you keep
feel it.
reaching your
Yes.
very svelte, thin waistline over there. But let me tell you something. I've over the years,
Yes.
for all sorts, I've felt that
feel it.
that duress there that you pointed out there.
Absolutely.
So
and when you
a lot
feel
of people feel that.
and that's your spirit tapping you on the shoulder saying pivot, do something different. Because if we do not honor that process, then we will begin to house stress hormones in our bodies. We will begin to house cortisol in our bodies. And then that presents a whole totally different problem. So either we're paying on the front end or we're going to pay in medical costs on the back end.
Wow.
So we can decide, you decide what you want to do. But that little voice is there for a reason. We were created, with this. So it is our internal, compass saying, no, make a left, go right. It lets us know what to do if we are paying attention. Our life lessons are there to teach us. The question is, are we listening? And once we listen, are we then making the decision that we need to make in order to properly align our minds, our bodies, and our spirits.
Yeah, well, as you discuss, whether it be on your website or in your book, if you haven't seen the doctor's book, she's got a great email version of a book called Burnout.
Yeah, The
Gift by Dr. Faith Brown. If you haven't seen it, go online. It's a really great. It's a really great book, but we talk about this area that we're talking about here now. That the illnesses that are caused by depression, boredom, stressed, frustrated, anxiousness. I mean, I could keep going on with the adjectives. That illnesses and the cost of illness is just going skyrocketing. So even if one doesn't feel spectacular or great about what they're doing in their career, if someone like you is able to bring them where there's a moderation of feeling positive and content, that's a big difference.
Sure. And I think the other difference, the big word, is also purposeful. So can I get to contentment without getting to purposeful? Because the only reason that I can do what I do and do it every day is because I'm not doing it for me. So because there was a population of people who would come to me and readily say, Faith, what do you think about this? Faith, what do you think about that? And once we concluded the conversation, the person walked away differently. I kind of had an indication of my lane. So when I wake up every morning, I'm waking up with someone in mind going, who can I help today? Wow. And I don't have all the answers. As a matter of fact, each of my clients is the expert on their own life. I don't have the answer. What I do have is guidance. What I do have is a process through which we gain clarity. What I do have is confidence builder to say, you can do this, despite the voices in your head, despite the peanut gallery. You guys know what the peanut gallery is. Everybody who has something to say. And there are going to be a lot of people who have something to say about even just us being in the studio today, both positive, both negative. But would that, impact me to the point where I will stop doing what I feel is purposeful? The answer is no, because if I can help one person, if I can bring one person back from the ledge, because that happens, if I can keep one person here a little while longer to spread a little more joy, then this journey has been worth it.
Well, let me tell you something, young lady. You need to start working on your number 2 person, because you got your number 1 person already. Yes. Okay?
Yes.
You got your number 1 person.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
You are just a unbelievable burst of high energy, Southern gal from Georgia.
That's right. That's right.
You are hot stuff. Yes. And brilliant. You've in the short time, I got to tell everybody. I mean, listen. You've heard I had a great Rabbi Mendel Goldberg. So in the short time I've had this show, I got a great rabbi on board, and now I've got a great clinical psychologist and life coach on. So I'm really got a great team, a great team that's really surrounded me. But so you got to work on number 2, because number 1 is Dean. Number 1 is Dean Bleckman.
Thank you, Dean.
You've made quite an impact on my life these last couple of weeks.
Thank you. And I take that very humbly. Thank you very much. And thank you for this opportunity, because let me tell you why this is important. I had my own bout with burnout. I couldn't write a book about burnout being a gift had I not experienced it the way that I experienced it.
That's what's unbelievable, is that your personal life, you personally experienced this, what everybody, the world is going through, this burnout.
Absolutely.
You really experienced it firsthand.
I did. And I experienced it in a corporate way. But there are people now who are burned out on politics. There are people now who are burned out in relationships because they're having to catch all the balls. There are people who are burned out just in their careers in general because of what they do, processes being placed upon them that they're not quite ready, 1, to handle, or number 2, can even adapt to. So it comes in different forms. The question becomes, are we listening? And for me, ultimately, it showed up in my body. That's how I know. You know, I had the scare of life in terms of, you know, my gynecologist asking me, you know, have you been under a lot of stress? What is going on? We should take more tests. More test? What do you mean? When I go in for a breast exam, more test?
Wow.
You know, I come from a family of girls, of women. No one in my family has a history of breast cancer. So I am here in the Northeast. I moved to the Northeast 16 years ago. So I go to the doctor to have my baseline. I'm a young woman, have a baseline. And I walk in, and of course, before I leave, the doctor is requesting more tests.
Wow.
I am alone. There is no sister there. There is no mom there. There's no friend there. I've just arrived to the Northeast.
Wow.
So I'm handling this news alone. No one's there to hold my hand.
Unbelievable.
And all like a needle aspiration. What is that? And why do you need to do that? So when asking about my family history, I'm checking no, no, no. All the boxes are no, but she's requesting more tests. So now for someone, a young woman who goes in for a baseline, typically one doesn't have to go back for 5 years. But the doctor said to me, we want to see you back in 6 months.
Wow. Wow.
You know, so obviously I was doing something that I wasn't aware of. My body was talking to me, but I didn't know what it was saying, and I wasn't paying attention. I was busy with my wonderful job, my wonderful corporate job. I was making a lot of money. You know, it was a great lifestyle, but I wasn't listening. It wasn't agreeing.
Well, there's no question about it that when you look at your personal life, that type of lifestyle you had was creating a lot of illness for you.
It was. Well, I was helping others.
Right.
I was in the pharmaceutical industry.
Right.
I was helping other people. And believe it or not,
well, that's a whole show for us.
Yeah, it is.
Because obviously my background, wellness and healthcare, I was in the nutraceutical industry, vitamins, minerals, sports nutrition products. Twin Lab was the brand, and we made some great products and all of that. And obviously we clashed with that pharmaceutical industry a lot over the years. And as you know, the FDA tried to regulate us for a number of years as well. So I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, it's personal. And then, of course, for, you know, many of the audience members actually know this, that I lost my father a year and a half ago. And my father, who'd never been sick a day in his life, had never taken anything stronger than a Tylenol, ended up being diagnosed in January of that year with a cancer, for which he was a total anomaly.
Wow.
He had no risk factors.
Wow.
None. So again, checking all the boxes. No, 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 right? And what we did not know is that we would only have 5 months with him. Wow. But here is what I want you to understand. So this is why I'm excited. You talk about the burst of energy. You talk about, you know, why, you know, I do this every day. So we go in with my father, and we're, you know, the doctors are running tests, and we're waiting for the test results. So the room is silent. We're not familiar with this kind of thing. So we're sitting around going, what are they going to say? You know? And the room was silent and a bit somber, a little solemn there. And all of a sudden it hit me that this moment, Dean, this moment is the only one we have control over. This is the one we own right now. And I get to decide in this moment how I'm going to live in this moment. I can plan tomorrow, but it's just that a plan. I'm not living tomorrow.
But this is the one that you have control. This is in your control over.
This is it.
Right.
This is it. And so in this moment, I'm going to choose to live. So in that moment, before the doctor walked back in, I got up on top of my father's bed and I started jumping up and down as if I were a 2-year-old.
Wow.
And he looked at me.
Wow.
You know, I'm not 2, obviously, right? So he looked at me, and he looked at me kind of weird, you know, initially. And then as he looked, I continued. And what happened? A burst of energy. He burst into laughter. He burst into laughter. It was life at that moment. I didn't know how much longer we were going to have, but it was life at that moment.
What a great moment.
And so what has come out of that, and I think you have this, is the way I try to live my life every day, which is laughing loudly, loving deeply, because it's the only moment that I have. In this moment, I want to laugh out loud. I don't want to laugh under my breath. I don't want to hide the laughter. And I want to love as deeply and as authentically as I can. So that's where this is what I do every day. And that's what I want for all of my clients. That's what I want.
You are really an inspiring, educational, motivating. You're a real special lady. And,
Thank you.
You brought me about 100 pens. Everybody should know on Dr. Faith Brown, it says Dr. Faith Brown on her pens, and it says laugh loudly and love deeply.
That's exactly what it says.
And that's so much about who you are, and that experience, that special moment
Yes.
that you had with Dad
Yes.
is really special. Our family went through difficult times also with my
Yes.
dad back in 2000, July. As a matter of fact, I'll never forget that day, July 7th of 2000. My dad basically, he was 76.
Yes.
The most funny, vivacious,
Yes.
just a great,
Yes.
just a great human being, a great man, great father,
imagine.
great husband.
Yes.
I miss him dearly.
Yes.
And I'll never forget, I still to this day, I'll never forget taking him to a cardiologist. Dad wasn't feeling well, he was diagnosed with some blockage.
Yes. Yes.
And never had a heart attack in his life. Never, always had this philosophy, son, where he'd tell you,
Yeah.
if you met, you would have loved him. He had quite a personality.
I believe that.
Okay. He was the only guy that could be president of a company. And women that worked for us could come in and sit on his lap without getting into trouble.
I see.
And my mother saying, "David, knock it off." He was just an incredible burst of energy, just a great person. But I'll never forget. We had a choice to make. He always used to say, "Never go see doctors." Okay.
So did my dad. Oh my gosh.
never say. Listen, I hope the medical profession. I hope they're. You guys are. You in the medical profession, you are needed. So
Yes.
don't take this. Personally with what's being shared here in our experiences. But, we had a choice. What was recommended at that time, my father was never sick in his life. And it was recommended to have bypass surgery, that there was no rush.
Yes.
And we, like everybody, we try to get the best in the world. I won't mention names.
Sure.
And, that night before, Mom, my mother, over 50 years, was married to my dad, worked in business for over 30 years.
Yes.
We were all with him. And a couple of us go into Manhattan. We stay at the Regency on
Yes.
Park Avenue. We have a nice dinner with him, drink a little wine. And, Dad, see you in the morning. We're going to... walk him to the hospital, take a walk. It was a nice day. And, you go to the hospital, you check him in.
Yes.
And we say, we'll see you in a couple of hours.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, everything that could possibly go wrong, those terrible red lights that go off as he's coming up in recovery.
Yes.
And then having a heart attack as he's coming up. That procedure that took place with that physician, I think it was told to us that he did about 700 procedures that year, and my father had bad luck. He was one of two that didn't make it.
Wow. I'm so sorry.
For all sorts of reasons. And
so sorry for your loss.
It was just awful. It was just an awful experience. So I understand where you're coming from, and I had to share my story.
Yes.
Because till this day, I miss my father dearly.
Yes.
I miss him dearly.
Yes.
And he should have been with us a lot longer.
Yeah. And that's a whole nother subject too,
Okay.
loss, how we deal with loss, because, and we won't go into it, but how do we then express his legacy and allow his legacy to live on, right? Because he's still very present. Still very present.
Definitely.
You would miss him. He's still very present.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So why don't we still spend some time on the topic of relationship with yourself and self-love? Is there more with knowing and accepting yourself, effective communication, and confidence and compassion? Is there more really to spend on those three areas as we bring relationship with yourself and self-love, how important it is? Is there more to share with our audience?
Absolutely, guys. So the premise is we start with the self. we get self-aligned, right? We get the vertical relationship in order, and then we have a chance of having a good horizontal relationship, and that's relationship with other people. So when we know ourselves, we can better then communicate our wants, our needs, and our desires. What we find is in relationship, particularly in couple relationships, personal, intimate relationships, as well as with parent and children, that communication gets a little skewed. We've heard about, Mars and Venus, we've heard, you hear all of these things. The question becomes why? It's not just the XX, chromosome and XY. Yes, we are different. But why is it that we can say the same thing and they mean something totally different?
Why is that?
Oftentimes it's because we don't know ourselves.
Wow.
We don't know. We know we can only speak to the limits of our exposure. So you and I, Dean, can witness an accident. If we have to give a report to the police officer, typically there will be some variation in our reporting, because we can only tell the story to the limits of our exposure.
Wow.
Okay?
Amazing.
So when we're talking about relationships, I can only interact with you to the limits of my exposure, the degree that I know myself and that I've been exposed to. If I never knew hunger, I couldn't talk about it with any passion.
Wow.
Right? If I didn't know abundance, I couldn't talk about it with any real degree of passion or insight. If I knew both, then perhaps I know balance.
Wow.
And I don't go too far to the left, nor do I go too far to the right.
Wow.
But when there is lack, and we know lack when there is misalignment, when something is not aligned, there is lack somewhere. And where there is lack, you can guarantee that there is ineffective communication. We're not on the same sheet of music. As husband and wife, we will not be on the same sheet of music. I'll interpret some of your gestures or some of your comments, perhaps as sarcasm, when indeed you didn't mean anything by it. But the limits of my exposure says that I was in an environment that when those sarcastic terms or phrases came up, they were offensive.
Wow.
Or they were meant to mock as opposed to just bring laughter and joy.
How much has the times that we're living in now today differ from 10 years ago, 20 years ago? when you talk about this and you articulate and elaborate about it.
Sure.
You got a great smile.
Thank you.
You got to show them. Look at that smile, huh? You got a great smile. But how with technology?
Sure.
Technology.
Yes.
How it's changed the world.
Sure.
With what you just shared and elaborated on, how's it different today, what you just discussed?
Sure.
Versus 10, 15, 20 years ago? Okay,
so I'll give you two examples. So let's first take technology, right? So we have the wonderful tool at our fingertips called texting. We have the ability to text. Right? We can text, all over the world. Like right now, I can text if they're awake. I can, text someone in Brazil if I wanted to, right? There is no emotion associated with that text. So if I were to say, I am screaming without an emoji or some type of emoticon, how would the person interpret that? Is she in danger? Is someone hurting her?
Wow.
Or could it be that I'm screaming with laughter? Wow. So it all depends on what we say and how we say it. Without the presence of emotion or tone, without being able to judge the tone, we can always misinterpret something.
Wow. I was notorious for that. I think I've made improvements. I've changed with what you're using, sharing.
Yes.
I was notorious. If someone sent me a text,
yes,
if you send me a text message that I don't like, usually in the past, I gotta respond right away.
Yes. Yes.
And or if you sent me a email that I didn't like, I felt the urge, the need. Wow, I gotta fire back to Dr. Brown with I gotta get one up on her.
One up.
Sure. So what I finally have balanced and realized that over time, that when people do send me text messages or emails that I don't like, I know text messaging and emails can be taken the wrong way.
Yes.
And so what I practice now is that if you do that to me and you send me a nasty text message, if you sent me a nasty message today as you're leaving and you're saying, God, I'm not going to be on that Guy Bleckman show again. This was a horrible, this was a horrible, happened, by the way, this was a horrible experience. Okay. So what I do now is I take a deep breath and I walk around the block.
Sure.
And then respond to you later on.
Sure.
Responsibly and logically.
Absolutely. And that is what's recommended. That is absolutely what is recommended. Listen, language has been around since the beginning of time, hieroglyphics even, so, and it has evolved to where we are now, with the learning of the King's language and all of that. So it is a tool through which we communicate with one another. Verbal, nonverbal, we're teaching messages, whether we are doing it consciously or not. We're teaching lessons consciously or unconsciously. So in a text, we don't know exactly what one means with certain things, unless, of course, someone said, because they come without tone most of the time, unless there are 5 exclamation points behind them and some type of emoticon. So minus that, though, everything else can get lost in translation. So let me just go here because you ask a very important question. So how have things changed 15 years ago? So now what we have too is, I just want to call your attention to this. We will have a baby boomer, right? Someone from the baby boomer generation who may have a kid that's considered a millennial.
Correct.
Communication problems? You bet.
Big time. Big time.
Big time. Even when I think the baby boomers would use like terms like cool to describe something. And now the millennial will say, oh, that's dope. And the first thing maybe a baby boomer says is, like, what dope? What does that dope? What do you have on you? What do you have on your person? Where did you bring dope into my house? What is that? Lost in translation. We see it again in corporate America, where we have baby boomers who are now reporting to millennials. So the language gap or the perception of behavior becomes very important. Baby boomers grew up in a generation against the backdrop of working hard. Wow. We work hard, we go to school, we earn a degree, and we get a job. And when you get in that job, you work hard and you are advanced accordingly.
Right.
Just generally speaking, right? Well, millennials come along and they go, well, isn't there a shortcut? They grew up in this technological world, this world of technology. Isn't there an easier way to do what we're trying to do? So the perception from baby boomers could be that the millennial is lazy. When really the millennial is saying, not so fast. We're just trying to get a shortcut here. I think there's an easier way to do it so I can get out and go to the gym, or I can get out and do what I need to do. I can get on with life. The language, verbal, nonverbal, behavioral cues, the way that we interpret one another, unless there is an alignment, again, mind, body, and spirit, unless this is aligned, then I don't have a chance of success with this horizontal relationship, because the horizontal relationship is going to ask, instead of assuming that the millennial is lazy, I'm going to say, hey, let's talk about your point. You have an interesting point there. How does that work? It beckons one towards reconciliation. Wow. I'd rather reconcile with you than to fight with you. So show me what you're talking about. Instead of being jealous, oh, well, this 30-year-old or this 25-year-old isn't going to be my boss. Let's reconcile. Come, let's reason. Let me hear your point of view. You may have something there. But when this is aligned, mind, body, and spirit is out of alignment, this horizontal relationship doesn't have a chance. Because we're going to take it personally every time. It's going to be a personal assault every time.
Wow, we didn't bring up politics on this show.
We probably should not either.
We did not, and we're not going to. But let me tell you something. I'm listening to you here. I'm listening to you here and talk.
Yes.
And there's
my office is 1745 Broadway. Just bring them right there.
I have no idea if our president-elect is a patient of yours.
No, he's not. No,
but
let's be clear. So his attorneys do not come after me. No, he is not my client.
But as you were talking, I couldn't stop. But the unprecedented election campaign that we have, and now that it's over, and the what we're experiencing here leading up to the inauguration and the activity.
Sure.
That as you were articulating what you were just sharing right now, I thought of our president elect.
Sure. So, I'm sure, as I'm sure many of us did think. Yes.
So why don't I made some notes here. Why don't you go into, it's my understanding and my research that there are very few high performance executive coaches in the country. And what does that mean, high performance executive coaches? Why are there so few? And what exactly, what is this high performance executive program that clients could be a part of at the Brown Wellness Group? Sure.
So like everything else in life, I overcompensated in certain areas of my life. What that really materialized and manifested into is that in any and everything I do, I am going to go to the top. It's going to be excellent. I believe in shooting for excellence. If we fall short of that, then we do. But the goal is always excellence. So when looking at a way to help more people, because that's what it is for me, I had to look at ways that would take me beyond the borders of New York State. So as a counseling psychologist, my license is for New York State.
Wow.
As a coach, I can go beyond the borders and go anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world. So earning my coaching certificate or certification as a high performance coach allows me to go beyond those borders. And because. So
do you want to share with what your type of travel and accommodations have to be to travel arod the world?
Well, we will deal with that one-on-one because just know that I'm accessible. I am accessible, not cheap, but accessible because I believe that's, if someone really wants help, then we make sure that we figure out a way to get everyone the help that they need. That's vitally important. So there are no hard and fast rules. There are packages that people can, purchase. There are other things we can do, but we will make sure that people get the help that they need. Now, as it relates to high performance, we have Olympic caliber athletes. We have, certainly professional athletes. Oftentimes people will get to points in their careers where they ask the question, what's next? And sometimes they come up empty. And so in my work with them, we help them get to the next level, which is what I call next level positioning. So does one have to be a high caliber, athlete, a professional athlete, or some kind of, Olympic caliber athlete to come in? The answer is no. If one has a mind for excellence, and they're asking what's next, or wondering how can I get out of this rut. Let's stick with the professional athlete for a moment. Let's say that one is not at the end of his or her career, but perhaps second, third year in, and we have a baseball player, a pitcher, who breaks his finger.
Okay.
Right? So now we've got to try to get him back in the game. Right? So not only do we have a physical break, which affects the body, we also now have a mental break, an emotional break.
Wow.
So the mind, body, and spirit are now disconnected because one has probably lost a little bit of confidence, having broken their finger, knowing how important that is to his or her career and what they do. So that person is in my office, and we help then to still realign mind, body, and spirit. Bring it all together so that he can get back on the mound to do what he does every night.
Wow.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
And I'll bet you do that very well.
Well, listen, they keep coming back. So, we hope that we help people in the process. And let me just tell you one differentiating factor for me as far as, my other colleagues are concerned. I'm a counseling psychologist, but I've been, in the real world. This is a second career for me. Dean, I believe in number one results, and I believe in measurable results. I really don't have lifers in my practice. I really don't have people who have come to me for the rest of their lives. I have people who want to, But I believe in there being a beginning and an end. I don't believe in codependency. I believe in people coming in, we measuring where they are. As a matter of fact, I have an assessment when someone walks into my office, and there's a question on that assessment that asks, on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you to change?
Wow.
Anything below a 7 gets referred out. I am not their girl. That's not who I am.
That's not who you are.
That's not. Because we need to see progress along a continuum. I want to see you grow. I want to see you actually materialize the life that you say that you want. We can have a cathartic experience for a few sessions, but beyond catharsis, it's about doing. What are you going to do about what you say you want? And I can't do it for you. And even if I could, I wouldn't, because then I'd rob you of the experience. I'd rob you of the lesson. I'd rob you of the opportunity to stand on your own 2 feet. I'd rob you of the opportunity to throw the crutches away and know that you can. So I make sure that you're moving along a continuum to get the life that you say you want.
Is it fair spontaneously for me to ask you, Dr. Brown, is it fair for me to ask you what kind of, in your profession, is it fair for you to make a comment, what kind of success rate that you have?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I think it's a fair question. Yeah. And so it all depends on how we define success, right?
Absolutely.
So success
you
for me...
You go ahead and define it.
Yeah. Success in my practice is a person meeting their goal. It's not a goal that I set for them. It's a goal that the client sets. And so to the degree that the client meets that goal, I'd say we're at about 98%. And I only say 98% because there are some people that I actually fire.
Wow.
There are people that will come, and if we're not on track, I'm not about taking your money. I will not continue to take your money, have you come in for visits if you're not doing the work. I will actually say, this is not the place for you. Let's get you to where you need to be. I have fired clients.
Wow.
Because I'm not interested. Again, I'm not interested. My time is too valuable. I'm trying to laugh loudly and love deeply every moment I get. So my time is very important. And so if we're not serious about doing the work, this is not the place. It's not.
Wow.
So I'd say,
with that type of success rate and the impact you've had on me, boy, you're gonna have to carve into your busy schedule to come out here to talk more often. You're gonna be doing some more shows here. We're already into an hour. You've got to decide whether we're gonna do another 3, 5, or 10 hours, or when do you want to wind this? When do you want to wind down the show?
Well, how about we can wind this one down, but then we'll just advance the conversation in another conversation. That's what we do. So, because I think it's ongoing. Whenever we're trying to address, or whenever we are addressing the human condition, it is an ongoing conversation. I don't think that we stop. We're at an hour, so we're at an hour, and we may have to stop. Okay. But I'm sure our audience has questions, and so we'll be addressing questions at some point. But then this is apropos for the next conversation and the next conversation, because the human condition is dynamic. And so we meet people where they are, and because that's where we can help them, not where I want them to be, but exactly where they are. And we pick them up and we help to realign them such that they can manifest the life that they want to manifest.
That's powerful.
And let me just say this, because I'm so excited to be here. I don't know how many folks are still with us, but if you are listening to the Dean Blackman Show right now, you're pretty darn lucky, because guess what? Each of you, whomever sends an email to me, to drfaithbrown@gmail.com, you guys know it from Instagram, drfaithbrown@gmail.com. If you guys send me an email letting me know that you listen to the show, in the subject line, just say Dean Blackman in the subject line, Dean Blackman. Let me know that you're interested, if you're interested in advancing your own personal conversation and would like to meet with me.
Wow.
If you'd like to do that for your listeners, they're going to get a free copy of my ebook. Number 1, and I will give them a reduced consultation rate.
Wow.
Okay?
Very nice.
So for your listeners, that rate will be $99. That's actually valued at $500.
Wow.
For 50 minutes.
Wow.
So your listeners, and probably I will give it for the next 7 days. Whoever listen to this show today, if they put Dean Blackman in the subject line to drfaithbrown@gmail.com, they're going to get a free copy of the ebook, and they're going to get a reduced consultation rate.
Okay, if I was listening to that right now, there's one thing else that
Sure.
you're not putting out there.
Okay.
I'd want a picture with you.
We'll see.
I don't know if that.
So you know what? You raise an interesting point, right? As a coach, I would have absolutely no problem with that. So, but as a therapist, depending on why the person is coming to me, confidentiality becomes very important.
Absolutely.
So, we make sure that we do not, blur the lines between what the consultations are. So even when I'm on live and on Facebook, these guys know that I will introduce myself as a therapist as well as a coach. But when I'm coming to them on that platform, I'm coming as a coach. So, if when it's coming to me for therapeutic reasons, we will absolutely maintain confidentiality, and you may not want a picture with me. But for anyone else who wants a picture with me, with some limitations, I don't know where they're going to put it, whose head may be on my body, we will see. We can talk about it. That's negotiable.
That's great. That's great.
That's negotiable. That's negotiable.
You're something else. You are just, you're incredible.
Thank you very much.
You're really special.
I've enjoyed being here.
These last couple of weeks, that, it was me. I saw I'm going to be honest. I'm new to Instagram. The Dean Bleckman Show,
it's okay.
Only for the last couple of months, has an Instagram page. And
yes.
I came across this lovely lady and came across her Instagram page and looked at her background, and clinical psychologist and a power coach and mentor and author, and you got to look at her Instagram page. But I connected with her and told her, wow, I'd love to have you as a guest on my show. And just the interaction that we've had over these last couple of weeks to prepare for today. And
yes,
I'm really happy that you came into the studio.
Well, thank you very much.
That you came out here instead of us doing it from remotely. It's really, really special that you came here, and that you've become a true friend of mine, and just a unbelievable inspiration. Not only do I adore you, I think the audience is as well. And we have so many topics.
You, Dean.
We have so many topics and
yes.
so many conversations
yes.
to cover that it would take hours and hours and hours and days. And
yes.
I just hope that you take up my invitation.
Sure.
To be a part of the Dean Bleckman Show, and anyone like this has an opportunity to be a part of the Dean Bleckman Show if they want to. All they've got to do is contact me. So
take him up on that, guys. Take him up on that.
So I look forward to a lot more involvement and participation, and a lot of more really great shows on subjects that we haven't even touched yet.
Sure,
so
absolutely.
I want to thank you very much for coming.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm very humbled that you would even extend an invitation to me and give us an opportunity to help the human condition however we can, to facilitate the healing process. That is absolutely huge. So thank you so much for the invitation. I'm so honored to be here. I've loved being in this studio and sharing this time with you.
Great.
Thank you so much. But you have to do me a favor.
What?
You have to, as we go off the air, you have to dance with me.
You gotta be kidding me.
You have to. You absolutely have to. I know we're winding down. Listen, this is like one of my favorite things to do.
Before I dance, can I sign?
Before you dance, yes.
Do you want me to sign off with the audience now? Or,
yes, as long as they're going to watch. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, well, as I always do, and I don't have it memorized.
Yes.
First of all, I think we've told everybody how to reach you, right?
Actually, I'm not sure, but let's do it again. 1745 Broadway is where my office is in New York City. They can call me at 212-729-5653, 212-729-5653, or just, email me, drfaithbrown@gmail.com. drfaithbrown@gmail.com. You guys see me on Instagram, you're on Facebook, on LinkedIn and Twitter. Just hit me up wherever you can. Just look me up.
Should I sign off with my clothes, or do you want me to dance
with
first?
Your clothes? Go ahead. Because
then I'm going to have to shut the broadcast off after the dance.
Shut it down.
But as I always do, and I haven't memorized it yet, I always like to say that we want to hear from all our listeners. Listeners can reach out to us with the free text number for U.S. residents. It's 631-372-8849. That's 631-372-8849. We'd love to hear from all of you. Include your name and location, and we will mention you on a show in the future. Please don't forget to like us
Yes.
on the Dean Bleckman Show Facebook.
Yes.
By now, because of the great doctor, I'm sure you know who Dean Bleckman is. I'm sure you know how to spell Dean Bleckman. She's like the marketing social media guru for the Dean Bleckman Show. But please don't forget to like us on Facebook and to hit the subscribe button on the show's YouTube channel. If you'd like to leave a comment, use the box below on the YouTube channel. Also, I'm proud to say and very happy to report that the last 2 months, we are also... This show and all past shows can be heard and downloaded on the iTunes platform.
Oh, fantastic.
So this live
Yay.
show, after this live show,
Yes.
The show will be able to be heard on the DeanBleckman.com website. It could be heard on the website as a podcast. It could be heard on the Dean Bleckman Show YouTube channel. It could be heard on Dean Bleckman at iTunes. You could download the app.
Yes.
But if you'd like to share your personal story, if anyone out there, anyone in your world,
Yes.
anyone out there throughout the world has a great story to tell, has any ideas, if they'd like to be a guest on the show, everyone is welcome.
Yes.
On the show, on the Dean Bleckman Show. And all you've got to do is you could go to the website. You could write to me by going to deanbleckman.com, or you could write an email to me directly at dean@deanbleckman.com. But I would, before we dance, I truly want to thank you very much
you.
again. You're a very special lady. And
Thank you, Dean.
in the short time you've become a friend, you've impacted my life tremendously.
Thank you.
This show and many future shows, you're going to do the same, I know, for all my friends and my listeners. But I would like to thank everyone that's with us, all my
Yes,
listeners
thank you guys.
today that are with us, for being with us today. And from all of us at the Dean Bleckman Show, I want to wish everybody to have a great day.
You've been listening to The Dean Bleckman Show, live from Long Island, New York. From all of us here, we'd like to thank you for tuning in. We look forward to hearing your comments via Facebook, Twitter, Skype, and email. And don't forget, you can visit the webpage anytime for the up-and-coming guest list. From all of us here, have a good evening.